Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Mommy Loves to Read. I'm Olivia and thank you guys so much for joining me today. So before we get started, I just want to say thank you to all you guys who are tuning into my videos and commenting, liking, and subscribing. It really means a lot to me and I appreciate it. So today I'm here with, I guess it's not really like a book review or anything like that, but it does have something to do with books. The topic that I'm going to talk about today, I kind of was led to talk about it through books that I have been reading. So the topic that I'm going to talk about today is colorism, and I guess colorism from the perspective of someone who is African American, which I am, and just kind of like what I've been seeing lately. So I do have some notes because I'm trying to stay on track because this is such like a heavy topic and I don't want to be all over the place, and I want to make sure this video makes sense. So if you see me looking down a lot, that is why. So kind of just bear with me on this video, and I'm really here just to kind of give you guys my thoughts, my opinions, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and kind of like if you guys can also let me know what you're thinking and you're feeling down below in the comments. I kind of want this to be like an interactive video. I really want to hear y'all's thoughts and opinions to see if anyone feels the same way that I feel, or kind of like what we can do about this. So the first point that I want to talk about is the books that I read that brought this topic kind of like to light for me. And there's 3 books that I have read recently. The first book I do not have with me. It is a library book and I've already turned it back in, so I'm just gonna put a picture below, but I do have a whole video about that book, and it's called Like Vanessa. That was the first book I read. The second book that I read was this wonderful book, which is Soy, which I bought for my kids, by Lupita Nyong'o, which was also, this is a really, really good read. If you haven't read it, you need to get your hands on it. I feel like even if you don't have kids in your life, you should go out and get it because it's just a good book, whether you're a kid or an adult. And then the next book that I read that kind of brought this topic to light for me, which I'm not done reading, I'm going to try to finish this weekend, is this book, and it's called Genesis Begins Again, and it's by Alicia D. Williams. And this book and also the Like Vanessa book were both young adult books, and then obviously the Soy book is a children's book. So those are kind of like the 3 books that I've read lately that have kind of put this topic, I guess, like in my spirit and made me want to talk about it. And then the second point I want to talk about is my own experience. So obviously, as you can see, I am African American. If you don't know, I'm in Texas. I've lived in Texas my whole life, so I'm definitely in the South. So I know what colorism is. I know of it, but me personally, I don't feel like I ever grew up in a family where it was a big deal. I am the oldest of 12 kids, and with me and my siblings, we are kind of an array of colors. I would probably say, if you're gonna, to give you a perspective, I would be kind of like the darkest out of my siblings, and it just kind of goes on for that. We're kind of like a rainbow. So it never really was something that we talked about in my family or something that was made a point. It was never like, oh, this sibling is darker than this person, or I never felt like I was treated differently because of the color of my skin or anything like that. Like I experienced the same thing as everyone else in my family. So I never really understood, I guess, what colorism was and how it really affects people and all those things. And so the questions that I kind of have now is with the Soy book, it's Like Vanessa, and the one I'm reading now, a big topic is like people throughout the books, a lot of things is talking about how this child was treated differently at school. Like they felt like no one wanted to be their friend, and it was linked to the color of their skin, or, you know, they felt like they weren't beautiful, and it was linked to like, because I'm dark, then I'm not beautiful, or because I'm dark and I have this texture of hair or whatever it is, I'm not beautiful, and people around me make me feel that way. They have made this known, and so this is why I feel that way. And so especially with this book, Genesis Begins, this book really, like, I don't know, it really put me in my feelings and made me feel some type of way. There's one part in this book where the girl is talking to her grandmother, and the grandmother explains to her, she's at her grandmother's house and she's dusting the furniture, and she notices that in all of the pictures, everyone in their family is light. Like they're just light. There's no dark people. And she kind of brings up like, she's the darkest one in her family. And so she kind of brings up like, how do I look like this and everyone else in my family looks like this? And the grandma explains to her that from a very young age, her father explained to her that in order for them to succeed in the world, in order for them to be anything, they had to be as light as possible. So when it came to them marrying and things like that, they weren't allowed to be in relationships that were people who were darker than them. And she even tells the girl how, like, when she brought home her first boyfriend, the dad pulled out a paper bag and held it up to the young man's face and was like, do you see this bag? Like, he's darker than this paper bag, so we cannot allow you to be with him. And she didn't. She broke up with him and she wound up marrying someone else. And she also tells a story about how her own father, they did that test with him, and her father is darker than the paper bag, but her mom decided to just go ahead and marry him anyway. She didn't let that stop her. And that kind of really like struck me, because I was like, wow, like, I feel like whenever we talk about colorism, we always want to say, okay, like it's white people or it's all these other people. But I guess my thing that I'm kind of grappling with is like colorism in the African American community. I can only speak from that perspective because I am African American, but how we deal with it and even how we perpetuate it, because it would have, her mom obviously choosing to marry this man, that was kind of like her pushback. But even in that, realizing like, did you know the significance of why this was done or how these things were done and how it really affects you? And the one point that is brought up a lot in this book is the girl really feels like that's why her grandmother doesn't truly love her. She doesn't have that connection with her grandmother that other people have. Her grandmother really has never told her that she's beautiful or that she really loves her. She's like, I know my grandmother cares for me, but I really feel like when she looks at me, she doesn't see anything beautiful. She just sees like the color that I am and how she disapproves and why did my mother make this decision? And now me as someone, I have 3 children and my children are array of different colors, and just how we deal with that and how we raise our children. So I guess my question today would be like, how do we as African American men and women, you know, whether you're parents or not parents, how do we change that idea for the next generation? I know I'm really big on making sure like when my kids get books and things like that, that they have representation, that they see people of all colors doing lots of different activities, whether they're artists or dancers or book writers or whatever it is, so that they know like you can be whatever you want to be. Don't ever let anyone stop you or look at you and say, because you look a certain way, this is the only thing you can do, or because you look a certain way, like we already have this idea of you and we know who you are. But I also feel like, how can we, like I said, in the African American community, kind of stop that cycle and stop that cycle of making people feel like the only way that you're beautiful is if you look this way, or if you're this shade or that shade, or if you know, you can't be too dark, but then you can't be too light, you know, all these different things. And even in this book, it was a lot of, she was saying how, the grandma was saying how they didn't want her to marry someone dark because if you're dark, you're never going to get a good job. Or normally when it comes to crime and even things like that, how people that are darker generally are the ones who commit the crimes or get accused of the crimes. And even like here in America, that is very, that has been proven. There are studies out there that say that like, if you are darker, people automatically assume that like you would be the person to commit the crime or do things like that. And so like I said, I just want some feedback. If you guys can just share with me like how you feel about that. If you guys ever noticed that, maybe like your own experiences with colorism, and just what can we do as a people to change that? Like, I feel like we always stand for causes and things like that. And not that there's the causes that we stand for are not, how do you say, significant, but I think sometimes we're always, I feel like I'm getting really emotional. We're always grabbing onto all these causes, and then we're missing so much. Like we have to start at the beginning. And it's like, I feel like if we start at the beginning, at the root of the matter, then we can really make some headway. And I know, like, especially being from, being African American, a lot of this was started back during slavery, and it's things that due to white supremacy and things like that. It's things that we have held on to both consciously and unconsciously. So I think a lot of it has to do with us changing our mindset and really having like a mind shift. And when we have a mind shift, then all those other things will like line up. And so I just want to challenge everyone out there, like if we could band together and really just let this kind of be like, now in 2019, we're coming to an end and we're going into a new year. As we go into the new year, really make an effort and really make a a stance to say like colorism ends with me. Colorism ends with my family. I know, like I said, I have 3 children and my children are various shades, and I always try to make sure that they know that you are beautiful and that you are uniquely and wonderfully made. There's no mistake in you. And whether you're darker than your brother or lighter than your brother, like those kind of things don't matter. Like, you're free to be who you are because you are who you are, and there's no mistaking in the way you look, and like you are beautiful just because you're you, and your hair doesn't have to look like that person. You don't have to talk like that person or walk like that person. Like, you be you and you walk in your truth, and don't ever let anyone cut you down or make you feel like you are unworthy or anything like that. But I feel like, what can we also do? Obviously, I'm ingraining those things into my children, and I would like them to take that out in the world with them. But what can we do, I guess, as the adult generation to even end some of that bias inside of us? Because I feel like we are doing a lot for this next generation, which I'm so thankful for and so grateful for. But I feel like even us as adults, we have work to do, because there's so many out there. Like I said, this book really brought to light how we don't even realize sometimes that we're acting in colorism. There's one section in this book where she was like, this person thinks she's better than me just because she's light skinned. And she had like a aha moment when she stopped, and she was like, this girl never even said anything to me. I'm just going into the room thinking this about her, whereas I never sat down to even have a conversation with her and really see what her thoughts, her feelings are about this particular subject. Just me, this is how I feel, because all my life it's kind of been ingrained in me that light-skinned people are uppity, or light-skinned people are this, and then if you're dark-skinned this, and if you're dark-skinned that. And I think we need to sit down and do a lot of soul searching and really get to the heart of the matter and see like how much of what I believe and how much of what I'm putting out there is my own personal thoughts, and how much of it is me allowing people to put these thoughts in my head. Like, how many times have I thought this about this man or this woman only because this is what society tells me to think, but it's not really my own thoughts and feelings and emotions and all those other things. So yeah, guys, I don't really know where I'm going with this video. I feel like it's all over the place, but like I said, these books really just brought to light that subject of like, colorism is real. We see it every day. We feel it. And I think sometimes because it is something that we just deal with, I feel like, how do I say, some of the other isms, you know, where there is sexism or anything like that, some of those are very overt. Can't talk today. Some of those are very overt, so we notice them. It's something we can pick out and we can point out, and we're quick to say like, no, that's not right. But I feel like with things like colorism, sometimes it's something subtle. It's something, you know, like where maybe you walk into a class and you notice like, ooh, all the kids that are kind of like darker skin are in the back. Or you notice like, you know, if you see a book, like, yes, it's an African American person on the book, but oh, I noticed that they're always like of lighter skin or lighter complexion. Or even if you're watching a show, like how the families are set up there, maybe is not anyone who has a darker skin tone or a darker complexion or anything like that. And I know even myself, I have had locks for two years. I got them sort of right after I had my twins. My twins were born in August and I locked my hair in October, so it's just recently been 2 years. And I know even with that, I feel like sometimes people make assumptions about me when I walk into a room, like, you know, oh, she has locks, so she must be this or she must be that. And how much of that is just ingrained in us to think that, like, ma'am, you don't even know me. You haven't had a conversation with me. Like, you know nothing about me. You took one look at me, and because of the way I look, the way I wear my hair, the way or whatever, you made this assumption about me. And it's not even true. Like, you don't know anything about me. When you actually sit down and have a conversation with me, that's when you learn these things about me. So I don't know, guys. Like I said, I feel like this video is all over the place. If I made any sort of sense or anything I said resonated with you, or you feel like I said, I guess my main point that I want to end with, this was like my third point, and this is how I wrote it, so I'm going to read it to you. My question is, what can we do as people of color, as women, even now, me as like a mom, as an adult, as a woman, what can I do for this next generation so they don't have to deal with what we had to deal with? Like I said, I never really dealt with colorism, like I said, in a negative way, but I feel like I felt those subtle signs of colorism where it's like, oh, people, or like I remember one time I have like the experience when I was in high school. I was with a group of I guess they would be my peers. They weren't really like close friends, but they were peers. And the one guy was talking about how in the summer he had a job at a construction site, and most of the people at the construction site were all African American. Sorry, I need a drink. And the guy was talking about how, like, yeah, they spoke in like Ebonics and they were always listening to like rap music and doing these things. And he turns to me and he was like, yeah, Olivia, you know what I'm saying? And I was looking at him and I was like, nope, I have no idea what you were talking about. Like, how dare you look at me as the only person in the room that maybe looks like that person and assumes that, like, I'm just like that person. Like, that's so, how do you say? One, it's rude. And two, like, that was so, like, racist and just, like, so, I don't even know the word I'm looking for. But the fact that he even felt bold enough to come to me like that makes me realize, like, we don't even realize how much these things are ingrained in me. Because would you go up to another person of another nationality and just make that assumption, like, that just because that person is this color that you know this thing, or you must be like an expert in this subject? Because I wasn't, and I'm still not. Like, I don't speak in Ebonics. I don't really listen to a whole ton of rap music. Not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not judging anyone who does that. I know there's lots of people out there who do. So to each its own. But even in, like I said, to me, that's just little things where it's like subtle little ways that colorism and racism has like snuck in, and we don't even notice it. Because in that moment, I wasn't as offended. I kind of just laughed it off and was like, no, don't really know what you're talking about. But then after, when I thought about it and I really like analyzed the situation, I was like, wow, that was not right. And I should have said something. I kind of missed that opportunity to educate that person. But, it happens all the time, and it kind of affects how we live our daily life. And I think sometimes we don't notice it because it's just so much a part of who we are. But like I said, guys, I think I'm going to end here. Today is Saturday. I want to go ahead and finish up this book, Genesis Begins Again. And I would definitely have a review about this book on my channel, because it goes deep, guys. I didn't really know what to expect when I picked this book up, but I feel like it was meant for me to pick up. It's really opening my eyes to some things, and it's really resonating with my spirit. So I'm really grateful for that. So like I said, comment and talk to me down below. I want this to kind of be a video. I want to hear your thoughts, your feelings, whether you're a person of color or you're not, just like how you feel, if this made any sense to you guys. And yeah, until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Have a great weekend. Have a happy Saturday. And until next time, bye.